Hello again. This is Nick Roach. We're outside again. Quite a cold evening. Got a big jersey on, trying to keep warm. It's evening, so the geese are starting to settle down. Hopefully the sound will be okay. I'd like to say a few words and entitle this talk, Do Not Ignore the Emotion. Do not ignore the emotion. I'm saying this because only this week I learned of a spiritual teacher, or non-teacher of non-duality, it's called, who a few years ago, I've only just learned about it, committed suicide. We had a nice conversation on the phone some years ago when I first learned of him, and we got on very well, but haven't spoken since. And as it happened, only a few weeks ago from here, there was another teacher, or non-teacher, someone who was regarded by many as enlightened or awakened. He also, only the other week, committed suicide. And I then remembered when I started teaching, and we set the website up about 10, maybe almost 15 years ago now. I received an email from a chap. Don't even remember where he was living, but he sent me pictures of where he lived. It was in some tropical paradise with all these wonderful trees. It looked stunning. And he explained that he was enlightened and he nearly committed suicide. And he'd come back to try and stop other enlightened people from committing suicide. And he'd spoken to others, and he was speaking to me, and he was a nice guy. And the email correspondence went back and forth for several weeks, but I kept telling him, I'm not going to commit suicide. But he was saying, yes, you will want to though, and I've got to stop you. This is my life now. I have to stop people, enlighten people, from committing suicide. On learning about the one from a few years ago, just the other day, I did a quick search online to see if this is quite a regular occurrence. And from the little bit I read, it seems it's not uncommon by any means for someone who has quite a major spiritual experience to see through the illusion, the temporary existence, that nothing's what it seems, to see the peace or being behind it and realize one is that, and to, after the experience, to come back and be stuck here where one was at the beginning, back in this what is then regarded as almost a living hell, a place of suffering, a place of separation. And they have struggle, they have great trouble acclimatizing and marrying up the great experience of oneness and being they've had with now they're back here, they've lost that, and they're back in the separation of the world. And then there are lots of teachers who I keep coming across now who teach as a matter of course, there's nothing you can do. There's nothing you can do. Some say it's because there's no one here to do it. Others say it's because there's no one to make a choice to do it. Others because nothing is effective anyway. But invariably, the teaching is there's nothing you can do. And there are a very rare number who are living in the state of pure being and awareness all the time, who are indeed free. I get that. No problem at all. They're free. They're beyond it. But for a lot of them, they've had an awakening experience and they're still in the transition period. For me, it was 8 or 10 years between the major insights. Even more than that if we go back further than that, the original ones. But there was several years in between of the experience, initial awakening one might call it, and the full fruition of becoming what one knew to be so. Now, another person I learnt, it was 25 years between her enlightenment and this happening. But generally, there's a separation of the first temporary experience of being it, and then eventually it becomes a permanent state. And if it hasn't become a permanent state yet, one is still in this transition, no man's land, believing, because most people tell them this, there's nothing you can do. And it's not the case. They don't know, you see, sadly. They don't know that it is the emotion which is creating everything. It's the emotion which had been sufficiently dissolved or cleared to enable them to have that experience. Without any conscious intention of their own, I'm not saying that, but it happened nonetheless. That's why when it happens through a traumatic experience, it's too shocking for the emotions and they stop. And the mind stops. And it's there. Or when someone's facing imminent death, and again, the mind is just too shocking to bear and the mind just gives up, the emotions give up. And that can lead someone to later on having that as a permanent state. But having already had that experience and not yet having it as a united, fully all-pervading being experience of this, what can one do? What can a spiritual teacher, a non-teacher, someone who already claims to be enlightened, what can they do if they're in this no man's land? And it's exactly what I've been teaching all along, and what I did my whole life since I was 18, and I learned to this. Face and dissolve the emotion. Make it conscious. That's the separation. That's what's happening. But you can't have the full experience of being while there's still enough emotion in there to cause the separation. So all one has to do in this period is to carry on living just as you're doing, and be as conscious as you can, particularly when any emotion comes up. Hold it. Take any action. This is exactly the same I tell anybody who's only just found me, but I'm talking to the teachers as well. Excuse me for doing so, but this seems important. When there's a difficult emotional situation, which will happen in this interim period, and the emotion comes up, hold it. Take any action which you know needs to be taken, then hold the emotion. You'll already be connected with the one being. The awakening experience will have already put you in touch with that, so you'll already have that to a certain extent. But you'll know there's still some separation there. You'll know it's not the full one, wondrous one being that everyone else describes about full enlightenment or liberation. You'll know that. And that's because of this emotion. And this is how to do it. Any emotion comes up, you hold it, face it, and go into it consciously, and you'll find the emotion will dissolve. It cannot survive in conscious awareness. And as you've already got to the point you have, it won't survive long at all, because you're already on that level. Your energy is already very strong. But don't ignore it. Don't ignore the emotion. And I read these teachers, hear these teachers saying, the emotion just happens, it rises and falls. Don't deal with that. There's no one to deal with it. There's no choice anyway. And what can you do with it? Just ignore it, let it happen, doesn't matter. Then we hear about them struggling and ending their own lives. Not just the two, but apparently throughout history. It's by no means an uncommon event. But it's only in these people in this interim period, as far as I'm concerned. Once they've had the enlightened awakening experience and they say, I'm enlightened now, they still have not got the full experience of being it. Because once one has that experience, someone might tell me different, and I'm happy to be told different, but I don't see in this experience I'm having now that will be there is no thing here to commit suicide. Everything is my own being, my own experience. This is me. This is all me. To me, I call me the one being, because that was what I was taught by my teacher Barry Long. The space inside where you're aware that you exist, that awareness, the stillness, is what he called me. So it's only words. Someone say there's nothing here, but there is no separation. There's nothing to end. There's just me experiencing being. And of course, because I know about the emotion, I know it's my emotion still creating this separation. So every moment of every day I'm conscious. The emotion is being dissolved, is being lived, being expressed. And if anything happens in my life to disturb something, it's very quick. It comes up and it's gone, dissolved instantly. Unless it's a major thing, it might take a little bit longer. But either way, it's very quick. I know that, and that's what's happening. And I know as I live the rest of my life, I'm dissolving the very energy that is creating my whole environment, my whole existence, my whole separation, which is not separate. But nevertheless, if I stub my toe, it hurts. So I'm not going to claim it doesn't exist. That would be silly. So I am the separation. My emotion is creating this to me. And that is what I am. I am this separation. This whole place is me. All I have to do is to be conscious, and the emotion that's creating it, the energy, is being dissolved. Actually, life is great. So I'm not in a hurry for that to happen by any means, but it's happening anyway, every moment. So whether you're a person seeking right at the beginning, or you've been on the spiritual path for a while and you don't know why you're not getting anywhere, or you're a teacher of non-duality or something, and you believe you're enlightened or had an awakening experience and you're awakened, and life is still difficult, you still have challenges, and emotion comes up and you don't know why, and you see this as a place of suffering. Excuse me, I've got a fly in my ear attracted by the lights. You see this as a place of suffering, in you as within so without. It's because the emotion is still there. You're still in this interim. And if you can be conscious and dissolve the emotion when it comes up, you'll find you get through this period much quicker. Get through it much quicker if you can dissolve the emotion quickly as it comes up, be conscious. So this period will be shorter for you, but also you'll know what's happening and why. So the less chance of you getting sucked into anything, thinking this isn't worth it. I'm going to go back to find that peace I found. And the only way I know to do that is to end it somehow. I'm not having this any longer. Because there is something you can do right now. At any moment the emotion comes up, dissolve it. There is something you can do. Whether you're at the beginning or you're near the end, do not ignore the emotion. This is all emotion. The good and the bad, the opposites, the pendulum swinging, unhappy and happy, keep swinging. This is a world of separation. It's a world of emotion. And you can dissolve it. Thank you.